Hey everyone, just so you know, the following video is a clip from a show I actually do on AFTV. The full link for the video is in the description below. Thank you for your continued support, really appreciate it.
It's time to start praising this man, Declan Rice. I can't believe what, nearly over 10 minutes into the show before we mention, I guess we have mentioned it, but we need to really go into it. Now, I'm going to say something crazy here because he played as the 6 and he was brilliant. I think he's an 8, and I'm going to explain why I think he's an 8 in a sec. But sticking it to the tactical pad, when we did have the ball, and you mentioned us brilliantly in possession, let's just move the players up the pitch a little bit. Havertz, he plays this slight ghost role. You know, I'm making runs into the box. You know, I'm supposedly pulling players away. I'm not seeing it that much, but that's what we keep being told. And it leaves Rice with an incredible amount of space to cover. I mean, literally, when this team, you know, when they are looking to counter Man United, we see that Rice has honestly got to cover all this ground on his own. And yes, Zinchenko is there and might sort of be there as a two-man shield as well. But largely, he's thinking about getting back to left-back. And Rice was winning so many tackles just by getting stuck in those areas. And funnily enough, when they score is actually the moment where I think he goes to press, but he's basically caught out of midfield. And when Havertz has the ball in this area, it's the loose pass that then Eriksen is happy to get a hold of. But I just thought the amount of ground Rice had to cover was extraordinary, Graham.
Not just the amount of ground he had to cover, the amount of ball progression that we relied on him to do in this game. Because I felt, you know, because Havertz dropped back, because that was what happened with the ball progression. Because Zinchenko came up high and wide a lot in this game, Havertz dropped back into the pivot with Rice. And Havertz, the advantage of that is that Zinchenko and Martinelli worked well against Wan-Bissaka, who I thought defended really well in this game against Martinelli. Martinelli, I thought, was back to his electric best in this game. He was on fire. But that was a great battle between Wan-Bissaka and Martinelli. But Zinchenko was getting up high to try and support Martinelli. So he's now not in that centre mid to progress in the pivot. So now Havertz dropped back there. I think probably to try and draw out Casemiro as well. Casemiro was following Havertz for most of the game. But we lost a lot in ball progression because we lost Zinchenko, Zinchenko loves to progress from that area. So he's gone out wide now. Havertz is not a great ball progressor. And that left a lot of onus on Declan Rice, not only to cover this ground, and you're going to show his heat map and touch map in a minute to prove just how much work he did, but he was the one progressing the ball. He had an absolutely outstanding performance, not just in sort of defensive duties, in ball progression and getting up to support the attack. He made lots of runs into those areas.
He did,
and when Arsenal, another tactic Arsenal used, which was highlighted on Match of the Day 2 last night, was Arsenal overloaded the back stick from corners and Rice was frequently at the back stick. So he was absolutely influential in all areas of the pitch, James.
And I think, you know what you mentioned earlier about Zinchenko coming out to the right at times and Rice playing out to the left, and actually we're going to show you this Zinchenko touch map on screen right now. You can see that there are touches out to the right, you know, quite frequently. Yes, majority left, he was a left back, but how often he came to the right side of central midfield. I think a part of that was totally on purpose, because as Martinelli hugs the touchline and Havertz is trying to make runs and get into that forward line, I think they know that if they lose the ball here to Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Casemiro, you want Rice there covering. And so it was almost a counter-press tactic. They're thinking 2-3 steps ahead. We want to play, we want to progress, we want to make our way forward, we want to get our lanes of fire, but if we get it wrong, we've got the right people. And then you did see some of those sort of crunching tackles, didn't you, that allowed Arsenal to then get back into play. So I thought that was all very kind of calculated, and while Arsenal weren't playing their best football, tactically some of the stuff was really fascinating. Now, I mentioned Rice being an 8. Let me just go through his numbers to show you why I think he's an 8 and why I think he's so complete. Pass accuracy of 88%, 85 touches, progressive carrying distance, 340 yards. Final third passes, 10, 5 progressive carries and 5 progressive passes. Also 5 ball recovery, so he's doing everything to get us forward, but he's also winning the ball back. 3 blocked passes, 3 aerial duels won, 2 interceptions, 1 tackle and 1 goal as well. We can now show you on screen his touch map, absolutely everywhere. He's actually touching the ball more in the attacking third than in the defensive third. He's not just a ball winner, destroyer, all that. He influences everything going forward so much. We'll show you his heat map, which only sort of supports the touch map. You can see it there. But then I also want to show you this that comes from @MarkOurStats, a really great graphic. It tells you where Rice ranks compared to everyone on that pitch, Arsenal versus Manchester United, for progression via carries and progression via passes. He is absolutely up there. So you might think, well, if he's been that good and he's done it from the 6, James, why on earth would you move him? Because I think this man, Kai Havertz, is still struggling. And I also want to say that I don't think Arsenal were brilliant in this game. I actually thought it was about 6 out of 10 performance from Arsenal, and I think that's considering the fact that Man United, finished third last year and are quite stern defensively and all that. I think in a game where Jorginho or Partey is sitting, you can allow Rice to go and press onto that front line, to go and try and chase and win the ball back high up the pitch, like he did against us when we drew 2-2 with West Ham, knowing there's someone sitting and protecting. And so when Havertz got that pass wrong because Rice is up the field, that's okay, there'd normally be a sitter. I just think he's so complete. And then he gets the goal. He does really well on that goal to take it the way he did. He looked the most likely to actually get us into the final third and make something happen in terms of us getting into the penalty area. I would want to let him do that with more freedom rather than have him sitting back.
Fair argument. I think the counter argument is that he's also very good here. Sitting, directing the play.
He's brilliant at it.
We saw in the game when Ben White went high and Saliba come across to the right, and he was sort of like picking the ball up here central.
Yeah, he was doing that.
So he was bringing the ball out, and that's another. He's got so many great skill sets. He can play 6, he can play 8, and he's playing both, James. He's playing 6 and he's playing 8, isn't he?
He is.
So why move him up to 8 when you can have him playing 6 and playing 8 in the same role? All you've got to do in this fluid system is somebody to drop back to cover him when he goes high.
I agree, but if I flip it for you, right? So let's get Thomas Partey in that team. So Zinchenko's your right back, Rice is your 8, and Partey's your 6, okay? And it'd help if he's fit. But Jorginho, okay, who's to say, for everything you said about Zinchenko helping higher up, who's to say that Partey and then Rice doesn't just drop back and become a part of the build-up anyway at times, with Martinelli coming inside as we've seen loads of times, and Zinchenko going high and wide like we've seen at times. I just think he's made for it, for everything we want from our 8, which is get forward, support the attacks, be a battering ram at the back post when we put cross into the box, be a presser who gets forward, but also drop back and help him build up in case we need to mix up with Zinchenko and Martinelli. I just think he's tailor-made for it, and Arteta, I think, is letting us know, I see him as a 6, that's how it's going to be, and I get it. Some of the defensive work he did was unbelievable, but I just think he is the perfect 8. I really do.
Look, it's a great argument you make. We've got 8s who can come in and play that role. Fabio Vieira came off the bench yesterday, looked absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Smith Rowe. Where are these 8s going to get their minutes if you're playing? If you're playing Rice at 8. Yeah. And the other thing is, Havertz was poor yesterday. He missed a poor shot. He gave away the ball that led to their goal. But he had one great run in the box, and that's what Arteta sees for him, doesn't he? And
I've taken him off.
You're taking him off the screen for me. Yeah, I want him back on the screen, James, if you could.
Let's get Havertz.
But the point is, we haven't talked about the VAR decision that went our way in the second half. But we had one that went against us when he makes the run in between Casemiro and Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
If I just move in over there and move Wan-Bissaka back, and they literally, between them, foul him.
Do you think it's foul? Do you think it's pen?
It's a pen for me. It's a soft pen. You could argue it's a soft pen, but then it's exactly the same as what Rashford got against against Forest last week. Yeah. So it was a pen and it was overturned. And the thing that annoys me about VAR, James, is VAR is not there to referee the games. It's there to overturn the clear and obvious. That wasn't a clear and obvious overturn. Yeah. So that's what Arteta wants from Havertz. He wants him in here. It's just not happening for him. What he needs more than anything at the moment, Kai Havertz, he needs a goal. If he gets a goal, you just hope then that the whole burden will lift off him, the shackles will be lifted, and then he'll be the player that Arteta wants. But at the moment, I agree with you, he's not doing enough to stay in the team. There's an argument he should be taken off the board, out the team, and then eased into the team, which I know Robbie's made a good argument for on AFTV. And when we got players like Smith Rowe, Vieira, and even Declan Rice, who can probably play that role better than he's playing at the moment, there's an argument for it.
That burst into the box that nearly won us a penalty, I just think Rice can do that. And then the other thing, and my final push for Rice as the 8 is, Odegaard I don't think was at his best yesterday. He was good, he was very good, and it was a very good goal, but his pressing was unbelievable. And what I'm seeing is Odegaard and Havertz alternating with the press, because depending on which side it is, one goes and the other covers and all that. I'd love to see, even though we didn't press that much in this game, when we were chasing it late, it was Ødegaard really, driving us forward. And I just again think that you allow Ødegaard to get forward and get into these more attacking areas and play as a 10 drifting right rather than like as a genuine number 8, and I think you want to allow him that freedom for 2 reasons. One, because of this stat you sent me, a big thanks to you, Graham, that only 5 players have scored more non-penalty goals than Martin Ødegaard in the Premier League since the start of last season, and the 5 are all strikers, as you mentioned: Erling Haaland, Harry Kane, Mo Salah, Marcus Rashford, Callum Wilson and Martin Ødegaard. So by the way, non-penalty goals since the start of last season: Rashford 18, Martin Ødegaard was 16.